just a hack. It's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible. So, Sean, you're a lot more handy than I am. I need some input here. So I spilled a bunch of blue Gatorade in my car on Tuesday, and I honestly don't like. What's the course of action for cleaning that?
What color are your mats?
Are my mats?
Yeah.
It was on the chair, the passenger side chair. I spilled it all in the crevice, and like the part where the top and the bottom of the chair connect is where it all spilled. So it's ingrained in the leather. Is this not a fixable? My car smells like blue Gatorade. Is this not a fixable endeavor?
A car smelling like blue Gatorade seems like a pretty good thing, actually.
It's not. It's not, because it's not hot out yet, but it's already getting like a little musty from the smell of the sticky blue Gatorade.
Is there a Gatorade scented candle? I would love one. Okay,
that's where you take that.
First course of procedure. I just don't know what you're complaining about. First thing you should do, call my dad, and then he'll give you the proper stuff. But
can you call him? Can you call him right now?
There's
don't actually do that.
There's plenty of leather cleaners and leather treatments, and then specific wipes that you can use that will. I mean, there's leather treatment that helps restore and preserve leather, especially for cars. I've used it in all of my cars just to keep the wrinkles out, and then it also gives it a nice scent that protects it, so you'll be able to clean it with some nice cleaner. This
sounds like too much work.
It's not going to be that much work. It's going to be about $40, and then you'll be okay. The smell, I mean, if you really want to do it, go get it detailed, and someone will detail it.
I definitely don't. I don't have the patience or the time for that. So okay. I don't think we're doing the detailing.
All right, so you're gonna look for some leather cleaner for cars.
Do I got to go to like AutoZone or something?
Like an AutoZone, yeah, like an AutoZone.
Can I get that at Target? You think?
Maybe. I mean, just maybe.
The Gatorade scented candle thing's not a bad premise.
No, it's not, because Gatorade's the best thing to ever be invented.
I mean, I can't disagree with that. I can't necessarily disagree with that. I just don't know if the smell is something that I would want to.
You smell that fruit punch Gatorade, and you know you're in for it's going to be delightful. You know it's going to be delightful.
It only works, I think, with fruit punch. I don't know if I would be willing to do that for
lemon lime
cool blue. Or
lemon lime would be a little funky.
Yeah,
for some reason, cool blue. I would be in on a cool blue. Orange. I mean, orange is just, it's a smell that everyone can smell, though. You open up an orange in a classroom and everyone knows someone's eating an orange. It's very distinct.
I know that there's citrus candles, but I don't know if I'd be willing to invest in an orange Gatorade smell for my apartment. I feel like that would be.
Yeah,
I can tell you from smelling Gatorade all day when I'm driving, it gets nauseating eventually.
Okay. All right. Well, I think you just go and you look for some good leather cleaner. And then stuff, just go to YouTube. They'll tell you what to do.
It sounds like too much work. Joe DeLeone and Sean Anderson, two former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. We're back here talking a little bit about spring ball. We've got some stuff that we want to cover, talking about headlines that we're paying attention to during the spring, heading into next season. Obviously, no answers are going to come from these, but we're doing FBS and FCS headlines that we're paying attention to. So a lot to get to on today's show. Also, I want to kick things off with Sean. So there was it came to our knowledge that the North Dakota State play-by-play job came open. It is now an open position for the play-by-play for football, and I think it was also for basketball. So, Sean, are you going to apply? I tagged you in it, and I thought that got some good interaction. I think the North Dakota State fans would love if you were the voice of the Bison.
North Dakota State fans are interesting. They have never given me any run ever, and all I've done is back their program as unbiasedly as I can, and they give Joe a ton of run, and Joe bashes their program all day, every day, and I can't get any love for actually being what a play-by-play broadcaster would do, accurately paint the picture in an unbiased fashion, and that's what I've done about their season since we started doing the FCS show into what it is now. So I felt no love for the fans, and maybe it's a thing. It shouldn't be a thankless job, though, because if you're a local team and you know your guy, you love that guy, or you hate him. You're not just like, oh, he's there. It's never that.
I don't know anyone who hates the play-by-play guy. I feel like it's always the color analyst that a lot of people
you
hate.
should come to DC and try to talk about it with a Nats fan, because no Nats
Really?
fan is okay is just okay with the play-by-play guy on TV or radio. It's always, oh, that guy stinks, or oh, that's the only way I'm going to listen. Like, people will listen to the TV, watch the TV with it muted, and listen to the radio call, and some of them won't
It's
even listen
that
to it
bad.
in the. It is so divisive for some reason with this stupid team that's going to win 30 games this year, that people can't, and they never have been able to settle on whether or not they like the radio and play-by-play guys, which both are great, by the way. They're both great.
So the question is, though, would North Dakota State fans hate you? Well, what's the reasoning for hating them? Is it just the tone? Is it the
They think that they're too
approach?
energetic. They think they're too boring. It's everything about it. So I've seen they're good. And you know what happens here? Everyone that lives here is mad about their job, and they want to be sitting there watching baseball all day, talking about it all day, and they get envy from it. And that happens with baseball guys more than it does football guys. So
Well,
if I
because
were
it's
to do
every single day. It's
every
constant.
single day, it is. And I've listened to some stinkers on air from across the country on their main radio feeds, and thinking, wow, they have to get rid of this guy because he is just terrible. But so I get that, but football must be a little bit different. I think I would have a little bit more of a early grace period, of maybe a bit of a honeymoon stage starting there if I were to apply and get it, which I won't, and I won't. But it
I
would
think you need
be.
to apply. Come on, it'd be good for the show. I think you
I
should apply.
don't hear. I think it would be good. I think it would be interesting to apply. I have to talk to one of my sources who is actively applying for a bunch of play-by-play stuff and see what he
Oh,
puts on his reels and what he puts on
who's
his
that?
resume for
Is it Stone
applying.
Freeman?
No, I'm not gonna put. I'm not gonna put the. You
It's
think I
Stone.
talk? You think Stone Freeman talks to me?
That's a good point.
Stone
Stone big
Freeman,
times you a lot.
he will text me when he sees Nautica in public, because one time I told him Nautica is polo for fat people, and he says every time I see someone wearing Nautica, I think of you.
Well, that's how you stick in somebody's head. I would argue, based off of what you said, though, that I don't know if you'd be a good fit for the North Dakota State job, because, like what you're saying, people get mad when they hate their jobs, and then they're mad at the play-by-play guy. I don't know if you're personable enough for because considering how quickly and easily North Dakota State fans are pissed off at us just for no reason,
Yeah.
it is one of the few fan bases where, one, I feel like they do not like us. Two, they also used me as bulletin board material and put me into their hype video for the national championship. So
They
it's
scanned
already
that episode and segment and said, we're going to throw Joe in here hating and
no. I
ignore the guy
posted
that
the
was saying
clip.
good things. Yeah, I know.
That was why I posted that clip, and then they yanked the clip. Like, I posted the clip saying that I have no faith in them in the national championship game. That was why they pulled it. So I think that by indirectly being related with me in doing the show, that would negatively impact your application. You'd already be coming in on a bad note. People would already think that you're a hack and that they don't like you.
Oh,
And
true.
it's an area where it's a lot of physical manual labor. You think that they want to listen to you after a long day's work? Like, that's my only.
I can be a raving lunatic. I could be a raving lunatic and be the homer number one of the North Dakota State Bison. I could be homer number one and say, little brother down south, congratulations on your 2 years of relevancy. You get ready to welcome back to the real world.
But everybody knows you're doing a bit. Then everyone knows that
they don't need to
playing
know, because I'm not big enough for them to know. I think it would be good for me to come up with it. I have to be honest with the guys. I have to say, hey, this is what I could do. I can give you what I am, or I can give you what you want me to be, and I'm cool doing either. And if they want me to be raving lunatic Mr. Midwest, I can do that.
Before we continue on with this video, I just want to tell you folks about an exciting new partnership that we have with this channel with Underdog Fantasy. Ever since I joined, I've been having so much fun. There are so many different exciting games that make watching games during the offseason more exciting. I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but it has made it way more entertaining since I found Underdog Fantasy. And my favorite game to play so far, which I think you should try out, is Pick'em. It is so easy to play. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it simple with their easy-to-use website and mobile apps. Pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out your Pick'em slip, get every pick right, and take home some cold hard cash. use code HACK, 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 like the name of this channel. Use code HACK to get your first deposit doubled up to $100 by Underdog. Go sign up. You won't regret it. You're going to have a blast. Check out Underdog Fantasy. I also want to tell you folks about our other recurring sponsor that we have on this channel, that being BetOnline, betonline.ag, which has all the updated odds, news, and anything for sports betting. It's my go-to source for when I want to be betting specifically on games. I love betting on college basketball or the NBA, especially, again, during the offseason. Always looking for more fun ways to be focused in on some of these other sports. It's betonline.ag and use promo code BELIEVE50. It's promo code BELIEVE50 to get 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. So this will be one of the biggest spring headlines that we'll be watching is does Sean apply? Does Sean get it? Who is going to be the actual person hired for the job? But everybody knows that we love and hate spring ball. We've talked about it on this show. Sean hates spring ball. I love spring ball.
Why would you?
It sucked at Rhode Island because of how cold it was. But there's a lot of important things that do come from the spring in terms of position battles, in terms of rosters being figured out by coaches to determine, do we need to hop in the portal? Do we need to get somebody? Does a graduate transfer reveal themselves that they could be a replacement on our current roster? And I want to take a look at some of the headlines that we're each looking for. So for FBS and FCS, my FBS one that I have that I think is going to draw a lot of attention is which of these incoming freshman quarterbacks has the best chance to unseat the current guy who, not a current starter, but the veteran player that they could beat out. It feels like this year, more than ever, we have a lot of really talented kids. Last year's class was very, very talented. And I look at the battle that we have with Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. I think that one is the least likely. But the one for me that I am the most intrigued in following is the Nico Iamaleava battle with Joe Milton. I don't think Joe Milton's that good, the Tennessee quarterback. I really don't think he is as good as a lot of SEC folks chalk him up to be, because they're like, oh, big arm, big massive arm, great athlete. But I feel like not a lot of it comes to fruition. So Nico's supposed to be this tremendously talented kid, and I think that one's going to be fun to see. And I'm rooting for a freshman to come in and start at that Tennessee job.
Yeah, the Nico hype train has been in the works for a while. It's been the camp clips. We keep on seeing the camp clips. It looks good. He looks strong. He just looks really lean.
I know.
He looks really, really lean. And if he's going to be the lean guy, you got to be able to keep yourself safe and sling it. And that's two things that freshman quarterbacks don't necessarily do. They say, okay, it's my time. And especially if you're a stud, they start running all over the place, throwing all over the place, trying to make a name for themselves, which you can't blame them. But when you're playing quarterback, there's more that has to do with you than any other player on the field. So there has to be a sense of being able to protect yourself. Young quarterbacks do a poor job of that. So that's where I think a lot of freshmen and sophomores get in trouble, and the seniors and juniors hold on to jobs. But Nico's a good one. Who else has? I mean, Arch Manning also looks lean. Like Quinn Ewers, at least he looks like a college quarterback. He does. Yeah. He has the look of it. He cut the mullet. That's fine. And I had no care about the mullet with it or without it. But his body looked like a college quarterback's.
Right. The Dante Moore battle with Colin Schlee at UCLA. That one I think is actually the most likely. Dante Moore's a really good player, man. I was shocked that he switched and picked UCLA over Oregon. And I think he realized that his only competition is Colin Schlee, who's a transfer from Kent State. He was fine last year, but Dante Moore fits better for what Chip Kelly is looking for in his starting quarterback. So that's another really fun one. But I want to ask you this before you give me yours. As somebody who had to pack on a bunch of weight, like, how much weight do you think Nico Iamaleava could put on over the spring and the summer? Because he's already there now.
15 pounds. That's about all he needs. Huh?
What's the most that you put on in a summer? Like, it's not like a fat question. This is
probably like question. 20, 25. I gained about 20 pounds a year from freshman to senior year. Dropped 10 my senior year. since then gained. But a couple other Dylan Raiola commits. He is still in the
2024
ether, so he wouldn't be playing next year anyways.
No.
Who's the Joker that had all the problems with Miami and then went to Arizona?
Jane Rashada. So that's also another one. Jane Rashada, who with Drew Pine, who stinks. Drew Pine is terrible. The former Notre Dame quarterback, absolutely god awful, dog shit, terrible quarterback.
Jeez, hey, there's the first.
I think that's another one where Jane Rashada can step in and start, because you look at what Kenny Dillingham liked in Bo Nix. Yeah. I think I get shades of that from Rashada. You're not getting any of that from Drew Pine.
I think Rashada has a good shot. I think he would definitely have a good shot at it.
What's your FBS storyline that you're looking for, Sean?
FBS storyline that I'm looking for, and this will be a two-banger. Coach Prime at Colorado in the spring. Everything's going to be documented like it always is. Everything's going to be seen, and now he's working with Pac-12 players and transfer portal players, and we're finally going to get to see how he operates with non-FCS players. And it shouldn't miss a beat. I wouldn't expect it to miss a beat because Coach Prime is kind of running the military. That's his approach. You're going to do his rules, and if you don't, you are going to be replaced. That's how he set it up. Not every coach is like that. He's not Pete Carroll coaching in the Pac-12. So his approach to the spring, I'm sure it's going to be a good amount of live bullets, going to be some thumping and true talent assessment going into a program that has struggled badly the last couple years. So it's going to be a very intense spring for the Colorado Buffalo, I would expect. I did like the clip of him talking to the specialists where he's like, okay, you're the specialists. Just stay out of my way, basically.
What?
He gave that really intense speech where I'm coming and I'm bringing my baggage and it's Louis. And that means if you're not good enough, you're going to be gone. And then after they posted a clip of him talking to like the long snapper, the kicker, and the punter. And it was just like, you guys know what you're doing. Just chill. I'm not worried about you. So
you made it seem like he said, like, get out of the way and just let us do our thing.
No, he was very pleasant, but the undertone of that was, don't mess with my practices, don't mess with my program, don't be a problem.
You have to be a huge piece of crap as a specialist to cause problems and to disrupt practice and whatnot.
Somehow it happened every practice at URI, though.
Because we had a kid who wasn't supposed to be playing Division I football, who was a charity case on the roster, who was constantly causing. I mean, I was a starter for 39 career games and I was on scholarship, so we know that was not me. It was the walk-on kid who literally, Sean, to just put this in the context.
Easy.
No. We have to talk about we've not talked about this on the show, but we have talked about this. We had a kid, I'm not going to bring up his name. The fact that this kid would pick a fight every other day and he was the fat, dumpy third string long snapper, had no chance of playing.
He was my favorite teammate of all time.
But I don't know a single long snapper at any other school that was picking fights at practice.
They didn't have the heart.
It was purely an insecurity thing. It was like, he couldn't wrap his brain around the fact that he had no chance of playing because he was a horrible athlete and a bad long snapper, that he would constantly pick fights with us. It was me and always the second long snapper. It was always.
Can you believe that this is still carrying over after college?
You brought
it up. This is the drama that took place every single day with the specialists. Yeah. You guys hurt your case so much year after year with the constant bickering and fighting and the kicker medley and then all of the shoving and the antics, and you expect like the offensive lineman and defensive lineman to fight, not the two long snappers. And it seemed like the two long snappers were always beefing.
Because he got into it with Griffin, he got into it with me, he got into it with Perry Schrader,
he got into Griffin existed on this planet.
With Mike Curry, he got into it with every single long snapper, and he also got into it with CJ and Matt Sawicki. He caused fights with everyone that was in the specialist room because he thought that he was owed something. It was I don't know, man. It was just a really weird dynamic to have a long snapper who every team has the charity case player on the roster, and that was him. And for him to then pick fights when he knew he didn't belong there is astounding.
Is Griffin okay? You brought up Griffin, and I have not. He has not come into my
He
brain.
fell off the face of the earth.
Fell off. Okay, gotcha. I didn't know.
I think he dropped out, and I think he's just working construction or something like that. I don't know.
Sure.
But it's worth. I mean, you can acknowledge by the fourth year after he had graduated, and it was our last year, there was suddenly no one had anything to say about the specialists. No one had anything to say,
man. I don't know. There was this new kid,
never,
that was lighting it up, and then
he wasn't there our freshman year.
What are you
talking about? He wasn't there.
It just seemed like, how did we get into this when I was supposed to be talking about Coach Prime in Colorado?
Well, we were talking. You brought up this
create drama, and that's what they do. And I think Coach Prime is trying to have a drama-free spring and go into a very, very big first year in the Pac-12 with not super high expectations. I haven't seen the hugely high expectations for Coach Prime, which I would expect there to be. I think DeLeone Sanders should have higher expectations.
No. Everyone's saying that like he's gonna finish with a winning record and go to a bowl game. I don't think a lot of people.
That's not high to me. That's not high.
That's extremely high. I don't think a lot of people realize how actually unlikely that is. I don't know if he's gonna get there. I think it's a very difficult task.
That's a reasonable expectation for DeLeone Sanders.
I don't think so.
Colorado.
For any coach with the worst roster in college football at the FBS level last year, for him to turn it around that much is difficult.
Who do you think has more talent on their team? Tulane last year or Colorado coming into this year?
Tulane last year.
No, you're tripping.
No, are you kidding?
They were 1-11. No, they were 1-11 the year before, and then they beat USC in a bowl game.
Tyjae Spears and Dorian Williams are going to get drafted. There's not a single player on the Colorado roster that's getting drafted.
Dude, I bet 2 people from Colorado's roster get drafted.
Not this year, next year.
Okay, so next year. That's 2 NFL guys. You named 2 NFL guys from Tulane. I bet they have more than 2 over the next 2 years.
Tulane has more than 2. I only named 2, but Colorado in their first season does not have any guys that are going to the NFL.
I don't know, man. I think
they're all underclassmen.
I don't think it's unrealistic to say that Colorado will have a winning record and get a bowl game.
What's your FCS storyline? Because it's related.
FCS storyline: how Jackson State moves after the departure of DeLeone Sanders. That's just something that I think FCS fans are going to be interested in because they were one of the biggest stories over the last 3 years. They just were. And it was for good reason. They were exciting. They had they had 3 winning seasons. They were fun, and you got to also see the inside workings of an FCS program. So how they move after this in the SWAC will be interesting to see. And then just another junior one, South Dakota State. They have a new coach. They finally replaced John Stiegelmeier. There we go. After who
we met, very nice guy.
Yeah, very nice guy. After they won the national championship, he said, "Okay, that's good enough for me." And now Jimmy Rogers, who I believe is 34 years old, is succeeding one of the most talented teams to win the FCS championship. So it's going to be cool to see what he does with the team. I know they still got a lot of talent, and if you're a player that is being recruited to the FCS, South Dakota State's one of the hot spots. It is. So what he does with the new team, how he goes through spring, and then how he prepares them for the upcoming fall, which won't be easy because it's still South Dakota State. You still have to play really good teams. Those are 2 new regimes that'll be interesting to track for the offseason.
Yeah, TC Taylor, I think, is going to really pick up Jackson State where it left off. I don't think there's going to be much of a drop-off, and I know that they're losing some of the premier talent, but to win the SWAC and to win the Celebration Bowl and to win all of that, I think that they still have a lot of talent, and it's being retained and taken over by a guy that has a very experienced track record as a coach. The Jimmy Rogers thing is really interesting because, they didn't lose that many guys. They really didn't lose that many guys. We talked about this immediately after how they're returning a lot of dudes. And I just, can he pick up where Stiegelmeier left off?
Just do what he did. I just do what he did.
But it's a Herculean task to pick up what took Stiegelmeier as long as he was there to win a national championship in his final season for him to then retire. He's got to pick up with those same expectations. It does not seem that South Dakota State fans believe that there should be a drop-off. And I'm going to be honest. I said this during the offseason last year. I said South Dakota State was going to win the national championship, and they did. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I
Yeah,
think that it is more of a toss-up this year.
Packers fans had speculation over whether or not Aaron Rodgers was going to be good, but the culture of good football, good quarterbacking in Green Bay had been laid down for about 15 years. South Dakota State has a very good culture. I'm not saying Rodgers is the new. I'm not saying Rodgers is going to be Rodgers. I'm saying that there's a culture laid down there at South Dakota State. You win. And if you're focused and talented enough, you get to win the national championship. So if you can relay and thrive in that culture that's already set, go ahead. It's almost a third base job.
How many times have we seen coaches, assistants succeed, legendary coaches, and the expectation has never lived up? They haven't been able to live up to the expectation. Sometimes it really works out. It absolutely does. But I don't know if it's guaranteed. I think I need to see how that opening stretch of the season goes. What I always believe is a really strong indicator of good culture, and then also how good and competitive a team is going to be, is how they play against their FBS opponent. I'm curious who South Dakota State's FBS opponent is.
Oh, I thought I knew it. I thought I knew it off the top of my head.
Oh my God, I can't type. But the way that they played against Iowa, and I know that a lot of fans, South Dakota State fans, were upset with the results of that game because they thought that they should have won. But I said after that game, there were so many positives that it was proof that they were going to win the national championship. They started the season off with Western Oregon, which is a really interesting decision. Do they not have an FBS opponent?
Maybe it's not locked in yet.
Must not be. Western Oregon is going to be a really tough battle. Regardless, I think that's a really interesting point to pay attention to. My FCS thought, we know that North Dakota State produces so many talented guys from their offensive line. And Cody Mauch right now is the darling of the NFL draft process. He is the sleeper, not really a sleeper pick that everyone keeps bringing up. He did really well at the Senior Bowl. He showed some positive signs. And I think that every year we have a different North Dakota State lineman that is good enough to be drafted in the top 4 rounds. I want to know how things fill out now that Mauch is gone and now that Nash Jensen are both gone. Who is going to step up? We said this last cycle, and I always think that it's a really fun thing to bring up because their offensive line has been the reason for their success. It has been the reason why they win football games. So if they have another premier guy in the wings, I got to know who that is. I want to see who that is. Are we going to find out after spring ball? Maybe not. Are we going to find out in the first couple weeks of the season? Does somebody emerge kind of like Cody Mauch, who we knew was good, but
we knew really last year that Mauch was going to be the guy.
But he started to shine a little bit more on a week-to-week basis that put more context behind the hype. But I don't know. I want to see. I love offensive line play, and I want to know who's the next Bison, who's going to be the next big boy who ends up being a star lineman for North Dakota State.
It'll probably be whoever their left tackle is. Left tackle at North Dakota State is a position
which is unsettled right now
with great merit. So whoever takes it it'll probably be their best lineman unless you have just a beast center. Because the guards, sometimes you got really good guards and they can always play center and maybe you move them out. Right tackle, interesting position to try to grade and see how good they are compared to the other linemen. But whoever takes that left tackle position, I think we would have to chalk as the first seed, which is, I don't even like that term at all because they work as a unit. But from a talent perspective, if I were the coaches, it would be who fits best where do we limit the most possible errors, where with everyone's pluses and minuses, where do we get the best number? It'll still probably be the best player playing that left tackle position because consistently, whether it's Dylan Radins, and I think he was a right tackle, right? Or was he right guard? Regardless.
No, he was a tackle. I think
the tackles for the North Dakota State Bison have always been just really, really strong, really disciplined, really technically sound. So whoever takes that role will probably be the guy that we need to watch.
Last one that I want to just throw out there, it's kind of a mix between the both FBS and FCS levels. I am so intrigued by the fact that Stanford hired Sacramento State's head coach, Troy Taylor. And I think that this has to be one of the more head scratching moves, but also the fattest question mark of what the hell is going to happen there. Troy Taylor is a great coach. Stanford at one point was a big program. I think that this hire is not indicative of what their history was. I know where they hired Jim Harbaugh from, and that hire paid massive dividends. Is Troy Taylor good enough to be Jim Harbaugh? I don't know if that's the case. But the indication here for me is the fact that Taylor was not in the running for any other major coaching job, major Power 5 job, and then suddenly he got this job. I'm a little perplexed. I just want to see what happens here, man. Does he steal some games in his first season? How long does it take for him in his creative offensive approach? There's a lot of question marks that are going on with Stanford in a program that, frankly, I don't think anyone gives a crap about anymore. But they have had a history of being a successful and dominant program in the past.
It feels like a reach. Hi, it just does. Gut feels that this is a reach higher. But Stanford, for a while, always felt like they had one or two guys that were just really, really good, and you knew they were going to be great NFL players. I can't say that for the last couple seasons that they've had. I mean, we're looking at, McCaffrey, obviously. They were tight end university for a while with Levine Toilolo. Was Austin Hooper Stanford also?
No, yeah.
I think because I think Atlanta went on a run of drafting Stanford tight ends. Regardless,
well, Zach Ertz,
they had a bunch of really good D linemen. And now it's like
Coleman Thomas.
Yeah. Now we just have 22
Scraps.
guys. We're Stanford. We're a good school, but it doesn't feel like they're cool Stanford.
It's turned
anymore.
into Cal. It's turned into Cal, which is not. It's not good.
I mean, Pac-12 schools are supposed to be cool, and they're supposed to have a couple really good athletes, and they're supposed to have some fun teams. And Stanford has been so boring, loser, for the last couple years that maybe Troy Taylor is saying, "Hey, I'm going to take us in the exact opposite direction. Whether it's good or bad, we'll see. But what you've been doing for the last couple years, it can't work. It's not going to work." And they said, "Okay, look, do whatever the hell you did at Sacramento State. You had 3 quarterbacks and none of them were quarterbacks. You had running backs and none of them were running backs. Everyone was
a running back who
they were all tight ends playing off
during a playoff game. Like, that's the juice that I want, man. That's what I think that Stanford needs.
He had an offense of all tight ends, all playing different positions, and I'm sure one of the offensive linemen was a tight end size also. So do whatever the hell you want with Stanford, because it can't be more boring and it can't be worse than what it's been. Colorado will beat Stanford next year.
We'll see what happens. Folks, that's going to be it from us at Joe DeLeone at Sanderson Radio. Sean, any closing thoughts?
Huge court case going down right now in my house. Someone ate half of a Tupperware full of pasta.
Oh, no.
Overnight last night.
Oh, so this was a drunk decision.
Not me. I had my own leftovers, and I stayed away from the pasta because I don't like the vodka sauce pasta. It's not for me. So there's 2 suspects, and none of them have copped yet.
Well, maybe the suspect was so inebriated that they don't remember the action.
Yes,
so
that's
maybe
what happened.
You.
But no, because I was so full of my own. I can certifiably 100% say it was not me. But the it's starting to grow hair. I'm now the jury because it's definitely not me.
Why do you tell me this at the end of the show? Why aren't they up here right now at the end of this taping and we could have done this for the full 30 minutes?
I'll get as much update. Here's what I'm saying. Tyler said there's going to be a reckoning, and if you guys leave food out on the table, I'm eating it.
So whose pasta was it?
Tyler's pasta.
Oh, that's bad because he's high maintenance.
Yes, he had a full Tupperware.
Did he make it?
Yes, he made it.
Oh, that's even worse. When you take the time to make something and you save it and you're like, I can't wait to eat that when I'm drunk. Oh my God.
He wasn't even drunk.
Who were the suspects?
Me, Sam, and John went out last night. Tyler stayed in because he's got some work stuff.
That's even more effed up too. That
he wasn't even drinking. He wasn't out partying with us. We went out, partied, came back way later than we should have. And then I know that I had my leftovers. I had some meatballs and polenta that my mom made me earlier in the week. All right. So I had that and I saved it. I said, this is going to be delicious. It was. Sam had 2 slices of pizza saved from the night before. John didn't have anything saved, but none of us can remember John eating anything. And we can't remember Sam going into the pasta also.
Did Sam finish his pizza?
Yes.
How thick is Sam right now? Is he packing on weight, or is he in good shape?
He looks better than when you came out and saw him last, but he has not looked as good as he did when we first moved in.
Well, because the key thing here is if he's fat and he got fat, he definitely ate the pasta, because I've been there. Me and him have a very similar body type that whenever I'm dumpy, I'll eat my food and then I will seek out more food. So I'm on that wavelength. It is very suspicious, though, because if I were to steal food and no one saw me eating food and I didn't have anything to eat, I would absolutely sneak that shit and wait for everybody to be asleep. And this is coming from somebody who's stolen food out of the office fridge before.
So this occurred after 4 a.m. It must have occurred between the hour of 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. The only caveat is I know I went up to bed at 4:40, 4:45 because Tyler yelled at us twice for being too loud. And then went to sleep. Okay, cool. Sam slept on the couch in the living room. So he was closest to the pasta all night. But also John slept until about, with the daylight savings time added on, slept until about 4 o'clock today.
That's depressing. So where does the jury lean, though? This is really difficult.
Jury leans toward John doing it. He's suspect
because of the reasoning
1.
that I said, because he didn't have any food and he might have snuck it.
I think that's what it was.
But Sam would have needed to have been so passed out that he wouldn't have noticed if John came back.
He was out cold. We had about 40 minutes of hardcore laughing and playtime when we got back. And I was eating, and everyone was just recapping the night. And then it just dissolved when Tyler came down and yelled at us for keeping him up in a way that you would.
Oh, this is difficult.
This is grown legs. This is definitely grown legs.
There's no cameras or anything?
No cameras. God, no.
All right, we're going to get an update next show. We need to know who stole the pasta. At Joe DeLeone at Sanderson Radio. We'll be back with more.